This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor next to his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on a monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and walked out into the hallway.
Hello everyone, Shadefire here, and today we're taking a first impressions look at the Stanley Parable, a Half-Life 2 Source Engine mod released in 2011, or was it a standalone game released in 2013? I seem to have mixed the two up. In fact,
Stanley decided to go to the staff lounge to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him.
This actually looks surprisingly Source Engine-ish. I fear I may have mixed up my Stanley Parables.
When Stanley came to a set of two open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the employee lounge, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. So he turned left at the first open door and walked back in the right direction.
Well, we could follow his instructions, or we could actually play the correct game. For this is not the Stanley Parable as I know it. For you see, this is the Stanley Parable as it once was. But today, we're going to look at the Stanley Parable as it is now. For this is what the Stanley Parable has become. The Stanley Parable, of course, was originally the brainchild of Davey Wreden, and it was released as a Source Engine mod that was meant to be a sort of commentary on the narratives of video games and how they sort of force you down their linear paths no matter what you do. Also, I don't know if you can actually see it on the final capture, but I think it's neat that the Fraps thing actually shows up on the monitor within monitor. Anyhow, let's begin the new Stanley Parable.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. Stanley worked for a company in a big building where he was employee number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office.
So as you can see, it's both different and the same. The production values are certainly higher, and I believe this is still running on the Source engine, but a newer Source engine, of course. And I think the cutscenes are actually made in Source Filmmaker from the look of them. Unfortunately, there's not really much we can do to defy the narrator here, but for those of you unfamiliar with it, Stanley Parable is essentially a game of choices. All we can really do is follow or rebel against the narrator. There isn't really puzzles or action or anything of that sort. So if story is not really your cup of tea, this probably isn't your sort of game. Anyhow, we should probably step out of our office.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Partition Corp. It's nice to know that in this world there's an expert on partitions.
No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Well, one might argue that all of these papers and whatnot are traces. But perhaps we should continue on. It's nice to know our office building is built in a void. Say is that blood over there, but it appears to just be water damage, dirt. Perhaps the last remnants of a scuffle on the way out. Maybe there was a fire alarm. Spilled coffee. That would certainly be a trace of our fellow coworkers. Some maintenance was going on here. Does seem a little strange that all of these other offices have a second door to some sort of maintenance hallway. We didn't have one of those.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
I'm pretty sure we should go this way.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it.
So again, that was our same first choice. However, our destination is different. We were trying to get to the meeting room, not the cafeteria.
Ah, yes, truly a room worth admiring. It had really been worth the detour after all, just to spend a few moments here in this immaculate, beautifully constructed room. Stanley simply stood here, drinking it all in.
It's actually fairly Spartan in its decor. And I'm not sure what's up with the riser divisions.
Really worth it being here in the room. A room so utterly captivating that even though all your co-workers have mysteriously vanished, here you sit looking at these chairs and some paintings. Really worth it.
So another addition is that Kevin Brighting has...
At this point, Stanley's obsession with this room bordered on creepy and reflected poorly on his overall personality. It's possible that this is why everyone left.
Kevin Brighting has a lot more dialogue in this than he did even in the first one. And a lot more, I guess, reactionary dialogue, it seems.
Stanley sat around waiting for more dialogue. But when a long time had passed and there was no more, he decided that the game was trying to send him a message. But at last, he'd had enough of the amazing room and took the first open door on his left to get back to business.
Can't tell if that clock is moving. I believe the second hand, yeah. The second hand is actually moving. But it might be moving in real time. You stare hard enough, it almost looks like we're just somewhere else. Kind of dark and spooky in there.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
I guess that's not really lying, that's just crouching. We don't have any key card. What if I just jump off here instead of the cargo lift?
Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact is that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you've forgotten about. Please, stop trying to make every decision by yourself. Now, I'm not asking for me, I'm asking for her.
So the real appeal here is kind of finding all of the endings, because our decisions and kind of the split on how much we follow the narrator and how much we defy him kind of determines what ending we'll get. And I'm fairly certain that if we had jumped off onto the catwalk there, we would have found another path through that door. But that path is lost to us for this playthrough.
This is it, Stanley. Your chance to redeem yourself, to put your work aside, to let her back into your life. She's been waiting.
I'm not sure I trust the look of this pitch black room. I think our narrator might be against us.
That's her, Stanley. You need...
Is that you? Hold on, sweetie. Sorry to keep you waiting. I'm just pulling the bread out of the oven. All right. Okay, there we go. All right, now, I want you to come in and tell me all about your day.
Gotcha. Oh, come on. Did you actually think you had a loving wife who'd want to commit their life to you? I'm trying to make a point here, Stanley. I'm trying to get you to see something. Come inside. Let me show you what's really going on here. This is a very sad story about the death of a man named Stanley. Stanley is quite a boring fellow. He has a job that demands nothing of him, and every button that he pushes is a reminder of the inconsequential nature of his existence.
What happens if we don't press it? I'm not sure refusal is an option here.
Look at him there, pushing buttons, doing exactly what he's told to do. Now he's pushing a button. Now he's eating lunch. Now he's going home. Now he's coming back to work. One might even feel sorry for him, except that he's chosen this life. But in his mind, he can go on fantastic adventures. From behind his desk, Stanley dreamed of wild expeditions into the unknown, fantastic discoveries of new lands. It was wonderful, and each day that he returned to work was a reminder that none of it would ever happen to him. And so he began to fantasize about his own job. First, he imagined that one day while at work, he stepped up from his desk to realize that all of his co-workers, his boss, everyone in the building had suddenly vanished off the face of the earth. The thought excited him terribly. So he went further. He imagined that he came to 2 open doors and that he could go through either. At last, choice. It barely even mattered what lay behind each door. The mere thought that his decisions would mean something was almost too wonderful to behold. As he wandered through this fantasy world, he began to fill it with many possible paths and destinations. Down one path lay an enormous round room with monitors and mind controls, and down another was a yellow line that weaved in many directions, and down another was a game with a baby, and he called it the Stanley Parable.
Spoilers there, narrator.
It was such a wonderful fantasy, and so in his head he relived it again, and then again, and again, over and over, wishing beyond hope that it would never end, that he might always feel this free. Surely there's an answer down some new path, mustn't there be? Perhaps if he played just one more time. But there is no answer. How could there possibly be? In reality, all he's doing is pushing the same buttons he always has. Nothing has changed. The longer he spends here, the more invested he gets, the more he forgets which life is the real one. And I'm trying to tell him this, that in this world he can never be anything but an observer, that as long as he remains here, he's slowly killing himself. But he won't listen to me. He won't stop. Here, watch this. Stanley, the next time the screen asks you to push a button, do not do it. You see? Can he just not hear me? How can I tell him in a way that he'll understand that every second he remains here, he's electing to kill himself? How can I get him to see what I see? How can I make him look at himself?
This is our life. We have no choice. We'll just carry on.
I suppose I can't, not in the way I want him to. But I don't make the rules. I simply play to my intended purpose, the same as Stanley. We're not so different, I suppose. I'll try once more to convey all this to him. I'm compelled to. I must. Perhaps, well, maybe this time he'll see. Maybe this time. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And I tried again, and Stanley pushed a button. And
And thus, one path has been completed. This game is full of paths, however, so let's see if we can find us a little something alternate before we end.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. Wow, yes, this room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look,
I wanna
Stanley,
see what
I think
happens if we
perhaps
go
we've
this
gotten
way.
off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult. What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why, I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove that I'm on your side. Give me a chance.
Wait, 2B1? That seems like a strange employee number.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I want it to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you.
I think we'll need to go through yet another dark, creepy door. Alright then, let's see what fate has awaited us.
What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment with this place, Stanley, I think I feel happy. I actually feel happy.
My God, it's full of stars. But we haven't got all day for stargazing. Or do we?
No, wait. Where are you going? Right. Where were we?
But no, we gotta go.
Oh no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me.
We're left with no other choice.
Please, Stanley, think about what you're doing.
Goodbye, Kevin.
No! Oh. Thank God, you lived. You had me worried there for a moment. Now, can we please get back to the... No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
It's the only way. Goodbye, Kevin.
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. Can you do that for me?
My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly?
It's the only way. Goodbye, Kevin.
Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours.
Is it the only way? Farewell, Kevin.
Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it? I'm going back.
And Stanley is not the only one trapped in a cycle. Perhaps there is an ending considered the true ending, something that will end the cycle of repetition. But that's not for us to know today. For today, we were simply to observe the Stanley Parable in its natural environment, and I think we've done a fair job of that here. This has been the Stanley Parable, available on Steam. I believe it is $15 currently. But really, if you want to play this game, after seeing this, then you'll probably know you want to play this. But if you didn't enjoy what you saw here, you won't enjoy the game, because it's a pretty good summation of what the Stanley Parable consists of. It's all about choice, and the result of those choices. So far, we've only seen poor choices, but not all of them end in sadness. So that'll do it, folks. I've been Shadefire, and I'll see you all around again, because I choose to.